A mail merge is taking like a letter or a document and merging in a database those fields into the letter. For example, let's say you have a company of 100 clients and you're moving downtown. You want to be able to send or create one letter and address it and send it to the 100 clients without having to retype the letter, one for each different address of your clients. So what you can do is, if you have a database like Excel or Access, you can even create a database in Microsoft Word here. But of course, when you save that database, it does save it as Microsoft's Access. But once you create the database, or you have one, you can go ahead and create one letter here on one page, if it only is one page, and be able to merge all those fields, those different addresses, into this one document here, and then automatically it will merge those fields and create as many letters, or duplicate those letters to as many clients that you have in your database. So like I said, if you have 100 clients and you just have one letter here, the moment you click the magic button, it'll go ahead and it'll create 100 letters with the same text, but the only thing that's dynamic again is going to be the address, the client's name. Sky's the limit. You could actually have a database of all the purchases the client's made, and you can actually address thank you client B for purchasing X amount of widgets. So you can merge it into here, make it look professional without having to do all the work, without having to address each individually. Mail merge makes it easy. So first of all, I can either start by typing in a letter on this document here, or I already have a document that's created, and I'll show you. I'll go ahead and come to my exercise folder. So first of all, I have my client's merge letter. Let's double click and open up that. And you can see here I've got a letter that's already created. It's today's date. I'm going to have the address up here, and then down below, thank you for purchasing, and then I'm going to have like the number of times they purchase online training videos. Thank you for purchasing 5 or X amount of online training videos. We really appreciate it. Thank you. If you like it, please send us some donuts. Well, what happens is I created this one merge letter. There's no merge fields. It's just a basic document letter. But when I use the wizard in Microsoft Word, it's going to take this letter and merge it with my database here. Now this is Excel. It's the mailing list, and if I double click on that, it opens up Microsoft Excel. And you can see I've got a database of only 3 people, so I don't have a huge client base, so my company's suffering, but nonetheless I want them to come with me. The first row is the row header, and it's a heading for each column down below. Now if you haven't watched a training video on Microsoft Excel, you want to do that, but what I mean by row header is by default it doesn't take these names up here and filter them or group them with the data down below. It sees this as a separate row. It looks a little bit messy. I have a blank row here, but I want you to keep that in mind to see what happens if you import data from an unclean database where it has gaps in between the data. It'll still pull in, but it's a little bit annoying, when, especially if you have a huge database with a lot of missing records here. So now that we can see, close out. So now that we can see I've got my client merge letter already written, prepared. I've got my database that I want to merge into this letter so it can create, remember, how many clients do I have in my database? It's 3, so it'll create 3 additional letters, one addressed to each client within the database. Now that I have that, I'm going to close out, go ahead and open up my Microsoft Word document here. And you can start with a blank document, because later on in the Microsoft Wizard it's going to ask us, well, do you want to use the current document and create a letter here? Or do you have another document out there like I just showed you that you want to be able to use as a mail merge for my data in my database? So to get started, I'm going to come up here on the Mailings tab, come over here to the Start Mail Merge group and click on the Start Mail Merge button. Come down here and use the wizard. Now the wizard, with anything in Microsoft, it'll ask you certain questions and you give it answers, and then at the end when you click finish for your wizard, it's going to take all your answers and put it into a form that it thinks will best fit your needs, and in this case the mail merge wizard. So I click on it to get it started. Over to the left hand side it opens up a task pane, and it's going to ask us, well, what kind of document do you want to merge your data into or create? Letters, email messages, envelopes, labels, directory. So what I'm going to do is stay with letters here, and you can see down at the bottom of my task pane I'm on step 1 of 6. So when I'm finished with all 6 steps, I'll have my 3 clients in my database have 3 different documents, even though I'm only working with one. So I'll click next. How do you want to set up your letters? You can use the current document, like I said. You can use the blank document, start typing your letter in here to here, and then blank, and then merge your fields in if you'd like from your database so it actually fills in the customer's name. Or you can start from a template if you're using templates.dotx for Word 2007, or a document. And I already have a document. I'm going to select that, then it says fine, where's your document? So I can click on the open button, go to my desktop here because I know it's in the exercise folder, and it's my client merge letter if you recall. Double click on that. Boom, it automatically overwrites the blank page here that I have and just puts in that letter. I'm going to go to the next step here, click on next and go to step 3 of 6. And then it's going to say, okay, well, where's your database? Do you want to use an existing list? In which case, if you do, you have to click the browse and go and find your existing list. Now, your existing list for databases are either going to be Excel, or it's going to be Microsoft Access. And or you can actually use your contacts for Microsoft Outlook, which if I select right here and click choose a contacts folder, if you don't have Microsoft Outlook, then obviously you won't be able to do it on your computer, so you have to have Microsoft Outlook. Or I can type a new list, and when I type a new list I click create. It's going to come up with a bunch of default fields up at the top like first name, last name. In fact, if you scroll all the way over to the right, it's got city, state, zip code, and so forth. Scroll back, and all you have to do is just start typing Mr. Kurt, and you'll just keep going. And then if you need to add another one, you can click on new entry, and it gets me to the next line, Mrs. And you can just keep going and going. A couple things you can do is you can customize the columns here. So when I click customize, it says, look, do you want to add something else? Like, let's pretend we have a letter we're sending out thanking people for purchasing so many movie tickets from our theater. Well, you can click add the new field, and then once you add it, it'll add it up here. Then you can just scroll to wherever it's at, go ahead and type how many tickets they purchased, like 5 or 6. So like I said, you can customize the columns here. In fact, you can actually delete the columns as well. And you can also delete records. And you can also find records when you click on the find button, type in, and then click find next, and it takes us right to Surety. So when you click OK, what it's going to do is it's going to save it in a .mdb, which is a Microsoft Access database file. So if I come on the desktop and I say, this is going to be my movie ticket, and I click save, first of all, it saves it to the desktop, and then it solidifies it here, so I have a list to choose from now. I can sort my list, I can filter my list, and we'll cover this just a bit later. And of course it lists all the databases, and once you select it, you can edit the database, come back in here, make changes to it, add or delete entries. Now at least we have it saved. That was the whole purpose, to go ahead and type in. You don't even have to type any records, you could just go ahead and save your database, and then after you save it, you can come back here and select it and then edit it. In any case, if I'm done, I click OK, and then I can click Next and continue on. But I don't want to use this database, but before we go any further, I'm going to click the Minimize and show you, here it is, the movie tickets database. And that little key right there, if you're not familiar with Microsoft Access, that's what it is. This is a Microsoft Access database. You don't have to understand Microsoft Access. Simply know that when you're in Microsoft Word and you choose to use Microsoft Word to create a database, when it creates the database, it saves it as an Access file. If I have other databases out there, I can select a different database and then go to my desktop, and there's the database sitting right there. Or I can go to my exercise folder, and there's my mailing database. When I double click on the Excel spreadsheet, it's going to say, well, you have 3 spreadsheets, worksheets in your workbook. Which one has your data? It's on sheet 1, so I can click OK. And then it lists everybody in the worksheet, including that blank row or that blank record here. So that's another reason why I would say when you use your existing databases, make sure that they're clean, because you know what? We don't want to import a blank record, so we can uncheck that. And so by default, it just brings in Simpson, Humphreys, and Heffernan here. Of course, you can always select this and then edit your data and then select this record here. And you notice that you can't delete it because it's Microsoft Excel. It wasn't created originally in Word. So we won't mess with it. We can just uncheck it so we don't import a blank record. But if you want to edit the database, then of course you want to go back out on your desktop, wherever your Microsoft Excel workbook is, and make the changes there. Okay, a couple of things before we move on. First of all is that you can sort your letters by last name, first name. So it's I would like it A to Z, ascending. So the H's are up at the top and the S's and down to Z's are down at the bottom. So you can click on the last name and say sort ascending, and it shifts them around. In fact, your blank one's now first. That makes it a little bit easier. Then if I want to take a sorting to another level, instead of sorting by one column at a time, if I want to do consecutive sorting where I first sort by last name and then it sorts them and groups all those that are together, like if I had 5 Smiths, then after it sorts them and all the Smiths are together, then I could say then sort by first name. So of the 5 Smiths, if I had them there, it would then sort alphabetically ascending or descending. For example, to sort consecutively more than one column here, click on the sort button. And you can see right now it's sorting by last name, and then after sort by last name I want to sort by first name, and you can do it ascending or descending and then click OK. Of course it won't affect anything here because I don't have any duplicate last names, so it sorts by that, and then if there's duplicates then it goes to the next column and sorts it accordingly there within those duplicates by first name. I could also filter. I'm going to say that there are some records, maybe let's go by state, that maybe I don't want to be in my mail merge. It's going to be CA. So anything, there's the state field, and I'm looking at the state field CA. Anything by CA, when I click OK, I'm going to filter out all the rest of the records and just filter in California, because those are the only clients that I want them to know that I'm moving, and then maybe later on send out another list. But then I can always remove the filter and say clear all and click OK. Finding duplicates. If it does find any duplicates, you can check what you want to use in your merge or not, because you don't want to send the same letter to Bob Smith 25 times. So click cancel. And then of course finding a recipient and then validating an address, which is an extension of Microsoft that when you click on it you can read about it and go to their website. Otherwise, if everything looks okay, except again I don't want to merge in a blank row here into my letter, so these three, Homer, Wilberforce, and Doug, will merge into this letter and create 3 letters with the same text behind it, but it will be addressed to 3 different people. The whole point of the mail merge. Click OK. So now that I have my data, I can go ahead and go to the next step, which is 4 of 6, and then it wants me to write my letter. And it wants me to use the merge fields from my data, because I don't want to type in here, dear, and then type in Wilberforce, Homer, and Doug. I want to be able to have it do it all for me. So there's my dear. And then I can insert a field up here on the toolbar on the mailings tab in the write and insert field group. And I can do like a last name, go by last name or first name. You see what it does? It just says dear blank, and it pulls the first name from my database, which is the ones that we just looked over, Doug and Wilberforce and whoever else it was. So you can do this one at a time. Insert merge fields, dear so and so, and then insert merge fields here. But what I could do instead is I could delete that and use the address block. So before I actually address anybody, I'll have an address block saying this is addressed to Doug Heffernan, and then there's the address. Over here, it gives you the name format for the recipient who's receiving the letter. If they have any juniors and stuff, you can add that in. If they have a middle name, you can select that and it'll also add it in, or you can just have it first name. You can see in the sneak preview over here that it just adds the first name, Doug. We'll just go ahead and include last name, first name. As you recall, record 1 was that blank record, so it's not importing it. In fact, let's go back. We can't even go back because first record's not coming in. But we can go to the next record, 3, and the next record, 4, and get a preview of it. If you're looking in here and you go, gosh, I know I had more fields than this that I would like to include in the address, then go ahead and click on the Match Field button, because what Microsoft Word tries to do is when you look at your database, remember in Microsoft Excel I had my last name column, my first name column. Well, what if you called it something else for your last name column? What if you called it L or LN for last name? Microsoft will try to recognize it, but if it doesn't, then Microsoft says, look, here's my static name for last name. What is yours? So you can click on the drop down arrow and you can choose address if you want that for your last name field, but obviously that doesn't make sense. So it's going to go for last name. Of course, it's postal code, which best guess what your field matches, and zip, so it recognizes that your zip is Microsoft's postal code, so it matches the records here. And you see all these others that don't match. If it doesn't match, it's probably 2 reasons. Either 1, you don't have it in your database, or 2, you have it in your database, but it doesn't recognize what the heck in here means company. It looks at videos. Videos isn't company, so by default Microsoft isn't going to match it. And then of course you can remember whatever matchings you choose here for the set of data sources on this computer. But if I click OK, it's matching everything appropriately. So keep in mind when you build your database that you make sure that you do something that Microsoft recognizes. So if in Excel create a last name column, you probably best not to type in just LST. It may not understand what that means, but if it doesn't, you can always come in here and say, look, LST is going to be tied to Microsoft's last name, so you got to click on the drop down arrow. Okay, enough of that. Click OK. And then if we're okay with that, we'll go ahead and click OK. And it adds the address block. It adds this little merge field right here. So that merge field will pull in the first and last name of whoever I have in my database and also their address. I also want to be able to continue on and hit enter. In my address block, maybe that's a little bit too much space in between that and the date up above, so I'll hit the delete key. I'll come down below and then I'll type in dear. And then I don't want an address block, I just want a first name. Now there's 2 ways of doing this. You can either type in dear and then just insert merge fields from this list up above, or you can select more items in the task pane. I mean, it lists the same merge fields from your database. You just click on insert, right? Or you can delete that whole thing, because there's more than one way to skin a rabbit here. You can come over here and do the greeting line, and then it shows you up here how do you want this greeting line to be, dear, to, or just none. And have full name like Joshua, or just dear Mr. Randall if you have a Mr. in there, or just the first name. And then it puts a comma right after it, dear Homer, and click OK. So you don't have to put a comma in here because as you read in the format, it's supposed to put a comma in, so I can get rid of that with the greeting line. Now I'm going to undo that because I want to show you something to keep an eye on when you use your merge fields. I'm going to hit undo, and let's say I'm going to insert one merge field at a time. And let's say I want to dear, and I want first name and last name. I'm going to do it the hard way so I can make a point here. insert first name. Then if I go insert last name, you don't ever want to put two merge fields back to back together. You want to have at least a space in between the two, because if they're touching each other, if they're kissing, you're not going to get what you want. They're too much into each other. They don't have enough space. So you want to be able to hit the space bar to separate your merge fields, okay? And then go ahead and add a comma after it. And then down below, thank you for purchasing. I was going to have X amount of online training videos in case if they purchased, 1, 2, or 3, I want to be able to thank them for their purchase. So again, I can come over to more items or go to insert merge field, and it's videos. You can call it whatever you want in your database. I guess I could have renamed this and put in number of videos and select videos and just make sure I have a space. So it's thank you for purchasing, and it'll have the number, because in my database it has a number 1, 2, 5, or 6, or however many online videos they purchased. So that looks good. Now I'm finished with step 4 of 6, and I can click next and go to step 5 of 6. If you didn't filter out who you wanted in before, you can do it again here, and you can toggle through your recipients. You click and go back, and when you click the back arrow, I'm on recipient 3 now, and you can see it updates here, so I get a kind of an overall view of how this letter is going to look. So far it looks really cool. Wilberforce Humphreys, remember that was the greeting address, and then I had dear first name, dear last name, and you can see how it highlights it or shades it, because that's telling me that that's a merge field, so I don't accidentally delete something when I click on it when it's a merge field that I don't want to pull out. And then thank you for purchasing, and look, it has 2 online videos. When I click the back, it has 5 and it updates the address. I mean, isn't that a lot easier than to recreate this letter 3 times and copying and pasting or typing in the address every time? So all I did was create one letter. I had my database and automatically pulled the database and created 3 letters, one for each person in my database. And you can see it doesn't go back to recipient 1 because it was blocked out. I can do that here. Let's say I didn't want to send Doug Heffernan, in this case, training videos. And in this document, it's addressing thank you for purchasing so many training videos. I can say exclude this recipient, and he's gone. So if I try to hit the back arrow, nothing happens. If I hit the forward arrow, I only have 3 and 4, but I no longer have 2 and 1. Again, 1 was a blank record. So I can go back and edit the recipient list and say, ooh, I do want Doug back in, check it. Or I do want the blank record, but I don't, and click OK. And all of a sudden we're back to Doug here, and we have 2, 3, and 4. Man, we're almost done, so all I have to do is go ahead and click next to complete it. Right now I can do one of 2 things. I can go ahead and click print, or I can edit the individual letters if I want to make it more personable. So if I click on edit, do you want to edit all records? Just go ahead and click OK. It opens up a new document. In fact, if you look down here in my taskbar, I have my mail merge letter with the database in it, and then the second one that it just opened up, it's a copy of what I have in my original document here. Okay. The only problem is in my original document with my mail merge is that it doesn't list all of the people in my database. It's only one page, and I can just preview one page. But when I go ahead and edit, it opens it up and it lists all the people in my database. There's one page for Doug, and I can scroll down to second page for Wilberforce and Homer. So I can come in here and make it more personable and say, for Homer, P.S. really liked your movie that he created, whatever you want to do, and then you can just go ahead and hit the print button, click on the office logo, go down to print, click on print, or click print over here, quick print, and then you're done. And then you can save this for the future, if you're going to be using this. Otherwise you can close out and not save it, and then you're back to your original here. And then what you can do here is you can go file to save as and save it to your desktop, and it's giving me my current date, and you can just say this is my mail merge and then click save. So what happens is if I go ahead and I close out of here and I go to my desktop, this has 2 things. When I double click on it, it's tied to a database, because remember we said we want to tie this to the Excel spreadsheet, and it says opening this document will run this command that just says, hey look, your database is placed in the document, do you want to continue with that? Of course. Click yes, and I'm back to my document here. There's only one page, because remember this is just the template, not really a template, but this is where it holds the database, or it's tied to the database, so I can do my mail merge from my database. So because it's tied, if I want to do my mail merge again, and then start my mail merge over again step by step. Now only this time it knows what its database is, and it starts off at step 3 of 6, not previously, where I have to start over and say, okay, this is a letter, okay, and then this is the document I want to use. We already selected the document we want to use. It starts us at step 3 saying, look, is there a different database for this letter? Because maybe you have 5 or 10 different databases, one for each region of the country. However your company deals with databases, either one fat large one or a bunch of mini small ones. Thanks for watching. Hey, as a quick reminder, if you like my video, please give it a thumbs up. You can also click on me and subscribe to my channel, get notified of the latest videos, and for only $2 a month, you can have access to all my Microsoft Office training videos.